Hey guys, welcome back to the Convo Couch. My name is Connie.
I'm Sun.
And today we have a very special guest, theatre director Darren Yap.
Hello.
So welcome to our couch.
Thank you, Connie. I did the school musicals. I was in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. I played one of the brothers and I went, this is pretty cool. And I loved being on the stage. That sounds really daggy, doesn't it? But I did. I remember it at 9 or 10 and my parents in the front row. And it just was, it was a natural progression where I then went to high school at Newington and, you know, a posh private school. But there's always argument at state schools and private schools. But what I had was a great drama department and a great music department. And school musicals mainly and some plays. But I loved again being on stage, and I loved the kind of pretending to be someone else, and I guess the fun and the socialisation part, and it didn't feel like anything else.
Yeah.
So it was just part of me from school. I had a kind of functional Australian Asian family, but my dad he's still alive, 90, a doctor, my sister who's a doctor, my brother who's a pharmacist. Escaping is probably something I enjoyed doing. I think if we were migrants, it might have been different, but because on my mum's side, like I'm fourth generation, so she was very Australian, and that side is very Australian, so very Western. My dad from KL in Malaysia was a different story. And also being the youngest, there's my brother Andrew, my sister Lynette, and me. So I think always the youngest, it's a bit easier.
What are the next steps from aspiring actor doing musicals in high school to actually making it a career?
It's a great question. I pretty much knew, and maybe from career advice to at high school, and again a good drama teacher, that probably I needed to not just just go for it. I needed some training, and it was very raw. So I looked at all my options, but I can even remember at 18, 19, I was very conscious and maybe self-conscious of being Asian, Chinese, and I thought, how am I going to fit into that community called Australian theatre, Australian white theatre, particularly in the 80s. So I actually didn't straight away go, I want to be an actor. I put on I kind of lied, and I went to NIDA and applied for the stage management course. Because I thought, well, at least I'm doing theatre. And I actually didn't get in. And I remember the head of the technical department said, you've got great energy, you've got great ideas, you're too young, as they always say that, with the life experience. And I went, so that, I think it happened around then when I went, okay. And then again, Theatre Nepean, which unfortunately now doesn't exist, that was offering a degree, a Bachelor of Arts in Performing Arts, and ticked a lot of boxes for my dad particularly. I kind of knew.
The Asian structure dad, like, okay, it looks legit.
And I knew that having a BA didn't mean you'd become, a star or anything, but I knew that would keep Dad happy. It meant 3 years in Penrith, which was a bit of a slog. But as you were asking, it was a proper training course. But even then, in first year, again, I think being conscious of being Asian, the course allowed you to do everything together. So you could be an actor. You wanted to specialise in acting. I may have wanted to specialise in directing. You may want to specialise in design. But we all, in first year, did all the courses together. And then you specialised. So even then I was just pretending, kind of going, I'll just be a stage manager, or I'll be a technician.
And then sneaky, you're like, I actually want to be an actor.
That's right. And it kind of was very clear by my classmates and my teachers going, come on, it's clear you want to be an actor, so you should do it.
So we went through that structured training, 3 years in Penrith, and then after that it's into the industry and finding jobs. And
it sounds so easy, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know.
And this is the coin of where it's yin and yang for me. I left Nepean in 1988, and I, even in third year, got a job, which is really rare to get in any acting institution, a proper job. They were casting a mini-series. It was the time of a big mini-series called Tanamira Line of Singapore. And they were still hadn't cast everything, and it was being shot in Sydney and Singapore. It was set in the 30s, very glamorous. And I went for the casting in the third year and got it. It meant my mum was a chaperone, but I got this really posh job. And it was an extraordinary opening door because I got an agent from it. I got other opportunities because of it, and I got a soapy called Richmond Hill, which doesn't exist anymore in GP. But things kind of rolled on. And I think it's because there were only a few of us where, particularly Australian TV drama, wanted Asian characters on screen. A very new thing, but it was now something that people were wanting. Yeah. So there was myself, I think there was Anthony Wong, probably as the men, and we would always be in casting at rooms waiting, going, who are you going for? Because there were other Asian guys and girls going, but they weren't doing it professionally, or whatever that word means. They weren't doing it just that. They were also doctors or other jobs. Yes. And it wasn't kind of kosher to just be sitting in a waiting room and go, hey, I'm an actor.
So do you think you sort of started at the start of when that wave came in?
I'm sure I did.
Started opening up more opportunities to I
think so. And the only reason I can count for that is, or vouch for that is because on the television, growing up, I watched a lot of television. I didn't really see anyone who looked like me. Yeah. And I didn't really see any stories that were about Asian families or Asian characters. So I only know that by being an audience member at home, I wasn't really seeing that, And so I really think it was 88, 89 where it all was starting to happen. And it's interesting there's no book that exists, but, I think there may have been some Indian, probably not, but as far as the Chinese, Indian, even probably Muslim, I don't think there were really that was happening, but particularly I think I was lucky. It's a yin and yang thing, because what was the struggle was I would often be in a casting session and I'd be like, GP was a great example, it was a big doctor's series in the 80s, and we would be talking about the character and we were saying that my memory is he was either born in Australia or came here when he was 6. So I had to kind of argue with the director going, why do I have to have a Chinese accent?
Yes.
Because unfortunately what hadn't happened then, which is now the case, what you look like and what you sound like was an issue.
Yeah. So incongruence between it.
Yeah. And so I often had to put on a really bad bung Chinese accent and talk like, and it didn't really matter whether I was being Chinese or Korean or Thai, because it was very bland or generalised then. So the stories weren't very developed, but they wanted the Asia serving. What I did at a young age, and was one of your first questions, took it seriously, that I went and got some training.
Okay.
And I do think that is often an issue where, and it's an argument I have, a heated argument sometimes with my fellow theatre thespian directors and writers. Sometimes the contentious argument is, sometimes Asian actors may not be as good as white actors. I don't think that's true. They may not have had the practice or the training or the 5 days a week constant, doing Chekhov in term 2 and doing Shakespeare. They haven't had necessarily that. It doesn't mean they're not as good an actor, but their experience and they're like a dancer learning to pirouette. They've learnt to actually get good at it. And I do think that one of my pieces of advice, and now the door has opened for NIDA and WAPA and VCA. You take advantage of the system. You do have to cast in a drama school, all of us plus everyone else, and I think that is right. So I think to apply, to audition, to do short courses, Actors Centre, the Hub, whatever private coaching, get your training together is a really important.
Awesome.
Because using your instincts is good, but it's not enough, because unfortunately we have that disadvantage still, because there are still people who think, unfortunately, that, that often the non-Asian or the white actors probably is better or more experienced. Well, they're more experienced because they've had more exposure and more chances to practice. And one of my dearest colleagues, Lee Lewis, who is the artistic director of Griffin, her mandate and her policy is always to do colourblind casting.
Wonderful, okay.
And she and I have this constant conversation that she says, but Darren, you have to see that if there are Asian actors who are not given the chance to be cast in a role, or they don't go for training, or they're not seen, then that kind of narrow place of where we're sitting will still be that, because you can't get better. Like a pianist can't get better unless they have more chances to practice.
Yes.
It's really hard to be an actor anywhere in the world.
Exactly.
It's really hard because we are aliens, what we do.
Yes.
And I think everyone, no matter what colour they are, would agree.
Yeah.
So, and when you get older or when you're female, or you're culturally different looking, it's even harder.
Yes.
So you've got to work harder.
Okay.
I don't even know if there's any magic pill to that, what I've said.
Yeah. So obviously you've done so many successful plays and directed plays all around the world. Do you have an example of one that you just thought, you read the script and you said, I know this will be an amazing performance, and how you actually just broke it down and sent it overseas? Like, what was that actual process like?
It's so interesting. I can only really talk recently about this year, and one of them was a new work and one of them was a show that I didn't really like. So in Japan, where I love working, and I'm so lucky to get work there, I was asked to direct a new version of Ghost, the musical. Now, I've seen it and I thought it wasn't very good as a production and some of the music, but I didn't want to lose the opportunity. But to answer what you're saying, it allowed me, to reimagine is the word, or to kind of reconceive it. And I was lucky to be paired up with a designer that I love here, and we live in Newtown, so it was such a joy to have the privilege to create a new version of this musical, to have these ideas and just to have the technique behind those ideas and the design and the role. And we would Skype Japan, and such a privilege, and then to actually see it realised, and now they want to bring it back in their repertory every 2 years. So it did very well, and it sounds like a simple thing, but it took a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, I guess what I'm saying, to realise things that you go... It was 2 years' work to see it open in July with my old man, Dad at 90, going, proud of you, son.
Yeah.
So that kind of sense of... Often when I think young people go, gee, you're lucky, you go, well, I'm lucky, but I worked really hard. The play I just did, Jesus Wants Me with Sunbeam, is a dream of mine for 20 years. And it was given to me when I was a director at NIDA by my mentor, Nick Enright. He said, this is a short story, this should be a great play one day. And it took me 20 years to see it last month. But what happened, it's hustling, isn't it? And being tenacious. I applied for stage rights. I did that. Again, it sounds simple, the storytelling of it, but it sat in the drawer for a while. I got distracted, and then I pushed through it. I got Steve Rogers to write it because I admired him as a writer. I, again, to try to answer what you're saying, I kind of envisioned and made it happen by grouping the people together.
The right people, yeah.
And then it won the Lysicrides Prize at Griffin, which I thought would mean it would actually have a great chance, and then it didn't happen. So it's a great analogy of how things you go, build momentum, and then they go. And then...
Up and down.
Right place, right time. Joanne Key, National Theatre Parramatta, said, this play, let me read it. And she wept and she said, this is great. So October the 20th, when it opened this year, I had 6 beautiful actors. I had Peter Goldsworthy, who wrote the short story, who hugged me and said, I'm so proud of this story turning into a stage show. I couldn't have felt more satisfied as a human being, not as a director, of telling a story about family, about love, about death, about grief, all these things I've been thinking about a lot. And that's just a combination of slogging at it and working. It wasn't, if this makes sense to what you're saying. Yeah. So whether I'm here in Parramatta or Tokyo or have been in the West End with Miss Saigon restaging it, I think what I love about it is it's the energy again, and it's the relationships you make, and that's why I do it. At 51, I just did this really successful play in Parramatta, but I know it's up to me to get the archive, to go find someone to edit it, to put the review. Do you see what I mean? It's no different to an 18-year-old having to push or sell yourself, or a 51-year-old director to push your work for it to have another opportunity to exist.
Yes.
I have to have the energy or
which you
not.
Do.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to lecture young people that it's your turn. I have to, if I desire to work in this industry, have to get...
It's a hustle.
It's a hustle. The people I think it's always about who are the teachers and people you admire. There's no point hanging out and being mentored by people who are successful. That doesn't mean you admire them. That's controversial, but it's true. So I I kind of attached myself to Robin Nevin, who was running the Sydney Theatre Company at that time. I respect her as an actor, and that company was very big and important at that time. And I assisted her on a couple of things called Summer of the 17th Doll, and got a feeling of that. I applied for the director's course at NIDA.
Yeah.
Got my courage to go for that. Cut to 1980, 85, 86, I told you. I went to NIDA and I got it. I didn't get it. So 97, I got it.
You had much more experience by then.
I was older.
Tick that box.
Finally.
Yeah.
And I think with anything, it doesn't, like a degree doesn't promise you an acting career. Going to NIDA doesn't promise you an acting. But what it does offer you is networking and the chance to meet the right people and to learn hopefully good things.
Yeah.
So in that short year, which I don't think is enough time, I got to get my act together where I could use a lot of my acting training, but also learn about how to analyse a play and how to do that. But again, lucky, right place, right time. Gail Edwards in that time, she came to talk to us. She was doing a show called The Boy from Oz. And they are all lucky moments in our lives. And it was going to be Todd McKenney starring in it in 1989. And outside the drama school, I asked if I could be her secondment. And that's kind of really where it started. I finished the course at NIDA and I got attached for 10 weeks on that. And of course that show became an international success for Todd and everyone. And Gail was, in that time, a prolific director working in Australia and England as a woman and America. So I learned a lot from her. Yeah. And she still to this day is my directing mentor.
Wonderful.
I mean, she directed the RSC, the National Theatre, Emmys for Superstar, Jessica Superstar. So I learned from good people.
Yeah.
It's really like seeking out your mentors and then building that relationship with them and really just like following them and learning everything they have to, like following them and learning everything you can from them.
And that you don't have to feel bad to. I think it's flattering to be asked. Like today, you wrote to me and said it's flattering to go, oh, you're interested in my point of view.
100%. Yeah.
But I think we all don't think that sometimes, and I think
you're nervous. We're like, I don't want to look needy.
But mentoring is the old-fashioned way, being the apprentice.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I genuinely mean. I'm not being negative, but if there's someone you admire, whether you're an actor looking at someone in the wings or on television, you should, if you can, get to. Obviously, if you're Australia, it's if you can meet them, work with them, read their biographies, study about them, because you obviously have some connection to their style, their way of working.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us on a great session of the Convo Couch. Be sure to check out Darren as the Sultan for Disney's Aladdin coming out next year.
See you later. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, son.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Don't be nervous to ask people who you respect, who you like to mentor you. Find them on Messenger and Facebook. Say, can we have a coffee? Go and do that.